Dear students, we are discussing fundamentals of communication, and in this fundamentals of communication, today's topic is need of modulation. Why we need modulation in a communication system, and what is that modulation, and what are the advantages of modulation? All these things will be covered in this lecture. The questions is, what is communication? What example? For example, if a single person is there and that person is speaking, and then that person's distance of communication may be 5 meters or maximum 10 meters, depending on the loudness of the voice. It can go to 20 meters also, depends on the loudness of the voice, and so therefore it is limited to a very small distance. But if I want to increase the distance of communication, then I use the loudspeakers. So depending on the capacity of the loudspeaker, it can travel for the longer distances. For longer distance communication, people used to blow the conch shell in the wars in the ancient time, which have higher frequencies as compared to the other signals, speech signals. Not only the conch shell, but other instruments which produce audible higher frequencies are usually used to for the long distance communications. Okay. Therefore, we can conclude from this discussion that higher frequencies can travel longer distances. Okay, so for longer distance communication, we need higher frequencies. Frequency, you already know what it means. What is the meaning of frequency? For short distances, we travel by walking, but for longer distances, we either ride on a bicycle or on a car or on a some motor or on a aeroplane, like that. Okay, so therefore that means that for traveling longer distances we use a vehicle, or we need even carrier for our movement. Similarly, a low frequency waveform or signal which cannot travel long distances, we need it to ride on a higher frequency signal. This process of riding a small frequency signal on a large frequency signal is called modulation. Next thing, other reasons for this is that modulation lowers the height of height of the antenna. It uses bandwidth efficiently. It allows us for the frequency multiplication. It lowers the effective power requirement of an antenna. It makes devices compatible to each other. Also, it increases the security. It enhances the security of the signal being transmitted using the communication system. Second thing, the first thing already I have discussed. Second thing is that by using modulation, we can reduce the height of the antenna. For the effective transmission of a signal, the height of the antenna should be compatible to the wavelength of the signal. We know that the wavelength of the audio signal is very high, very large. So the height of the antenna will also be large. So this antenna should be at least lambda by 4. Smaller than this will not be able to sense the signal properly. Low frequency message have very high value of this lambda wavelength. So lambda, you know that lambda is equal to C by F. So as smaller will be the frequency, larger will be lambda. Okay. Let us see by one example. If we have to transmit a signal of 20 kilohertz, then this lambda is equal to C by F. So the height of antenna will be similar to this lambda. So this is equal to C, that is 3 into 10 to the power 8 divided by 20 into 10 to the power 3. That means height of antenna will be 15 kilometer. You can think of a very large antenna having 15 kilometer of length. It is very high. Not possible to make. Hence, we need it to modulate over the message, say over a signal which have higher frequencies compared to it. So, higher frequencies will need smaller size of antenna. That will be the advantage of that. Now, let us go for the other reasons. It use by using antenna efficient use of bandwidth. Let us see how it how is that? What is the bandwidth? Bandwidth means the range of frequencies. The range of frequencies of a signal. For example, our audio hearing capacity is 20 Hz to 20 kilohertz. That is the bandwidth of the audio signals that are coming to us. Bandwidth is the range of frequency required for transmitting a signal or of a signal. So it can be quantified by the ratio of largest frequency, this f2 divided by f1. We will see this ratio will quantify the bandwidth of the signal. The audio signal usually has frequency range 20 Hz to 20 kilohertz, that you know. So when it is directly transmitted by using communication system, it is 20 kilohertz divided by 20 Hz. That ratio is 1000. If this audio signal is modulated over a carrier of 1000 kilohertz, if it is rided, means if I give it a ride on 1000 kilohertz wave, then it will be 1000 kilohertz plus 20 hertz, 1000 kilohertz minus 20 hertz. Ratio of that will be 1.2. So this ratio is very small as compared to this 1000. Therefore, the modulation converts a wideband signal. Wideband means large bandwidth signal into a narrow band. Narrow band means a small bandwidth signal. So that is what is advantage of modulation. Next reason for using modulation is frequency multiplexing. What is multiplexing? Multiplexing means traveling many things into a one transmission. For example, if I have a signal of f1 frequency, other signal of f2 frequency, third signal of f3 frequency, and so on, these all can be combined together by multiplexer. That is possible in the modulation system. In the modulation we can use multiplexer, but in direct communication we cannot use multiplexer. So many signals can transmit together with the help of this multiplexing. So demultiplexing can happen at the end of the receiver. That is the what advantage can be provided by the modulation. So it is practically not possible to distinguish between the different audio signals then when transmit simultaneously. You can understand. So single antenna. So that is so hence if we translate it into a low frequency range before transmission, then that makes it quite easier to reverse. So we can so this modulation makes, if I convert it to higher frequency, then that makes multiplexing easier. Other reason, the power requirement of the antenna also reduces. So modulation reduces the power requirement. It makes devices low power devices. Otherwise, the devices has to have a higher power. As I was saying that we need a high power loudspeaker to transmit a signal for larger distances. So the antenna, if I transmit it using a higher frequency, then it will require less power. So power is proportional to L upon lambda square. L is the length of the antenna, lambda is the wavelength. So if I increase the wavelength, then power radiated will be smaller. So if I reduce the wavelength, then power radiated by the antenna will be very large. Means the small power can travel for the longer distance. Effective power will be very large. So the that means that the effective power, to increase the effective power, we have to use a smaller wavelength. Is that okay? Do not confuse that a smaller bandwidth wavelength can will be having the larger power requirement. This is not power requirement. This is the effective power that antenna is transmitting. So as much effective power will be there, longer distance it will travel. Okay. Is this okay? Okay. Let's go further. Let us see the compatibility of the devices. The modulation increases devices, makes the devices compatible to each other. If it could have been the device A, if we have device A and we have device B, that are not compatible, and if I connect by wire, then it will not work. But if I convert it to a modulated it and make it carrier, and at the receiver the carrier will be compatible with the carrier, and then again this carrier can be connected to B. So that connection compatibility is possible with the help of modulation scheme. That is the advantage of modulation. Okay, last advantage is security of the signal. Signal becomes secure because now it is not original signal that we are transmitting. We are transmitting a signal which is converted to a higher frequency signal. So the security is enhanced because this is not original. This is now a hidden signal, this different form of the signal. So that is what that is the advantage. Modulation also allows implementation of encryption. We can use the key, we can use the password, and we can that is also possible in the modulation technique. So that is the added security. But by default also modulation have security in its security feature in itself. Okay, I think this much is sufficient for the need of modulation. Thank you for watching.